Hello and welcome to the first race of the race, IndyAM Championship by Formula Sim Racing. We are here for an IndyCar style series. This is the first race and we're here for the AM category, which is the second tier. And I'm Cameron Roger, bringing you through proceedings today. Alongside me is Ewan O'Leary.
Yeah, good afternoon, Cam. Good afternoon to everybody at home as well. Very much looking forward to this kind of IndyCar style series starting off here at the Indianapolis GP circuit. It's a pretty good place to start the season as well. Very much looking forward to this long first straight, of course, and then a tight little chicane really to start the lap, which is going to make things very interesting on lap one, and it's going to make things very interesting throughout the whole race as well, I'm very sure.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty great. So what car are we using? Well, we're using the DW12 as seen in rFactor 2. You can get it on the Steam workshop. It's been around for a number of years now, but we are using a fixed setup, which means all the drivers here have the exact same setup and pretty much everything is locked apart from the brake pressure and brake bias. So literally everything, so the wings, the suspension, the gearing, it's all the exact same for each one of these drivers. However, they can choose their fuel and tyres. And as you see on the screen there, 40 lap race here today. So we just have a one race for these guys. And what are they fighting for? Well, the winner of the overall championship will be getting a free entry to next year's 2021 Formula Sim Racing, whatever championship they are in, either the World Championship Pro or Academy. And for this series, we do have a 6-race season. We are mixing it between the road courses and the ovals. So there's a number of challenging tracks they're going to go to, and especially those ovals at the end of the season. I'm pretty looking forward to you.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to those ovals as well. Never really seen ovals quite work as well as they could in sim racing, like ever, really. So I'm really hoping that that is going to be the case when we do get to Indianapolis at the very end, and Apple Valley Speedway, which is not one that I've heard of or seen from so far, but we're all going to get a bit of a view of that at round 5. But as I said, we haven't really seen the ovals work quite as well as they could in sim racing, at least to my experience so far. However, I think they really could here in FSR. I know the rules are all in place and it's all been very thought out, and there's going to be some test races behind the scenes. Well, not behind the scenes, but just off stream anyway, so that we can really get it down. And hopefully those 2 races at the end of the season are very good ones. But we have got a fantastic calendar here actually with the 4 road courses, 4 very prestigious road courses and very well known, with a lot of character as well. They're very good circuits.
Yeah, got obviously the Indianapolis GP here today. Then we go to Portland, which is newly released from Studio 397. Then we've got 2 sort of newish DLC tracks. We got Sebring and Virginia before the 2 speedways of Apple Valley, and also the Indy 300 to finish the season as well. So over the next sort of 8 or 9 weeks, it's pretty compact. But yeah, we're looking forward to this. And obviously for this championship, we've partnered with The Race as well. So the pro category in a couple of hours' time will be streamed over on The Race as well. So do go check that out after this. And also thanks to IMB Raceway, 3D Wrap and SimLab for getting involved with FSR this year as well. But the drivers now have moved into the qualifying session in the background, and we need to see now who is going to come out on top here for the first qualifying session of the season. It's very similar to the format that we had for the 2020 season. It is 10 minutes with 9 total laps for these drivers, which is basically 3 hot laps, because that includes your in and out laps. And here coming across the line, we see Ferris Stanley. He hasn't set a time yet, but where's he going to put himself? He goes up there to provisional pole position on a 1:11.4.
Yeah, very good lap time from him, just eclipsing Barbakov by just under 4/10 of a second so far. Stepowski is going to come across the line now as well and see where he can go. 12th for him, sorry, not 12th, second place for him, just a quarter of a second away. So very solid banker lap times coming in here, especially from the front of the field. He gets a little bit more spaced out towards the back, but I'm expecting that to be mostly due to mistakes on the lap, really. I'm expecting it to be a little bit closer than that, but as I said, still over 6 minutes to go in qualifying. But it is a good start for Ferris Stanley to be up the top of the standings so early on.
And he's got a decent gap to some of these cars behind as well, as we're now on board with Chris Hagendijk, who is only taken part in these sort of off-season races. He's done the FSR Winter Series and things like that in the past, although goes really deep there into turn 12. That is not going to be an improvement for him. He is going to have to back out of that one. But we have got Stepkowski here coming into the final part of the lap. He is on a personal best first sector, but he was slightly down in that middle sector before coming in. He's actually going to be abandoning that lap, but I also see that I think Thomas Vac, he's just got up into second place. He did a purple in that middle sector as Stepkowski there obviously abandoned his lap as well. So at the moment it's Stanley leading the way from Vac and Stepkowski.
Yeah, it's all pretty close at the top, just about 4 guys separate by 4 tenths, which isn't bad at all. And it looks like Brantholm is going to try and get himself really wedged in between these guys, as he probably deserves to be up there. One of the picks of the bunch, really, in terms of this series, at least from those who we have here today at round 1. And now he's going to try and come across the line and see where he can get up to, maybe even a low 11 by the end of this session. Not quite for him at the moment, just 6 tenths away. 5th position isn't a bad starting place, but you don't really want to be in the midfield, heading into quite a tight first chicane, to be honest. It's a little flick to the right and then the left, and it is quite narrow and difficult to manoeuvre, especially when you've got 15 or 20 Indy cars heading down there, so you don't really want to be in the midfield if you can avoid it.
And Plotchek is coming here into the final sector. He's 7th place at the moment. He's on a couple of personal bests. He's currently 9 tenths off that pole position, so he needs to get a good run in this final sector if he wants to improve to get quite a way up the order. As I said, currently 7th place in this lovely purple machine. Where can he put himself? He's going to jump up into 5th place with 3 personal bests, as they're now on board with Batalla coming round this 3rd sector as well. Such a tricky track this. It's obviously the 2014 variant, as we saw in round 3 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship season, compared to obviously the 2007 layout that has been used in the past. So it's got these more fast chicane corners rather than the long hairpins of the other layout, and it makes it really tricky with these massive curbs on the inside of some of these corners. And at least quite tricky to improve. But improving is Batalla as he goes up into 6th place.
Yeah, I think that these guys will be glad that we don't have those old hairpins that were really quite a pain to get around, and just really ruins the rhythm of the circuit. Not that this circuit has particularly a lot of rhythm anyway, because most Rovals don't, to be honest, but it is not a bad one to say it is a Roval, and we are going to see some good overtaking opportunities with the long straight we have. And now Freelich is coming over the line, and now where can he go? Not set a time so far, but he goes straight to the top, 66 thousandths quicker than Stanley, and Thomas Vac is in the wall trying to beat that time at the moment.
Vac there was on a purple middle sector, and he has bottled that lap, so he will only have one more attempt. Obviously they've still got 2 and a bit minutes to go, and with this not being the longest track in the world, they've got plenty of time to get around for their 3 laps. But now Adrian Maharazoa, where can he put himself out of the final corner? Quite a long run to the line, actually. He improves 1 place there up into 9th. And we're going to see a replay of Thomas Vac. What is he going to do? Coming out of turn 10. Very tricky corner. But he's just going to clip the grass. Clips the grass there on the outside, using all of that power. Because this is actually, it's got quite laggy turbos on this car. So if you are quite low in the RPM, then you floor it. You will start to spin up those rears quite a lot. And that's exactly what's happened there.
Yeah, just you could tell he was pushing, though, the pole. He was really, really trying very hard to get up the order a little bit, and that was looking like it might have even been a pole position winning time, but he's going to have to try again, go out again and try again. Yeah, it's got always a little bit deep from Barbakov there. He's just going to have to compose himself now through this section of corners, really, and now try not to repeat the mistakes. But look at the opposite lock he's got going around there. It's almost a drifting composition, down through that right-hander. Really, really opposite lock, backing it in, and now into the final few corners. What is this lap time going to be? It's not looking like the cleanest of laps we've ever seen, so it might not be good enough for a pole position, but it doesn't look bad nevertheless.
And yeah, he hasn't improved in those first couple of sectors. He was really improved in that 3rd sector though, but stays there in 5th place. And now Ferris Stanley coming out the final corner. Barbakov is finished there with the check flag next to his name, so he won't be improving. Well, where can Stanley put himself? Can he jump up there? No, he stays in second place, but he's so close to Frelick at the moment. But he will not have another lap, so he will be out of this session as well, as we're now seeing Thomas Vack start his final lap. Can he finally put a lap together and get himself up, potentially on that front row? Nicely through turn 1 and 2 at the moment. And you might be seeing that this car is all over the place on the rear end, and that's pretty much just the style of car that it is. They have these quite loose rear ends, and you'll see that quite a lot, especially with the pro guys. They'll be using that slide sort of on purpose to try and make them get around the corners even quicker, as it doesn't have the most downforce or tyre grip in the world, but it is certainly a very capable machine. Now through this really fast chicane of 8 and 9, it's not quite as calm as the FSR car. It's really sort of soaring at the wheel, trying to get the car to turn before coming into this sector 3. Do not hit this inside curb. It is huge. Oh, but he doesn't have to do that anyways. He's locked the rears, and he will be now out of that qualifying session. So Thomas Vack there ruining a couple of laps, and he could have potentially been on pole today.
Yeah, he definitely could have. He definitely had the pace for it, but if you don't string it all together in the end, then you're not going to be able to get the pole, and that is a little bit worrying going into the race, really. If he can't string laps together, is he going to be able to keep his car on the road? As we're seeing another spinner now, Frelick, who's obviously going to win pole here if Stepowski doesn't do something absolutely phenomenal. He is improving here, and he could be one to watch in a moment, but a little bit worrying for Thomas Vack if he can't get those laps together as a wide. Oh, it was looking so good for Stepowski, but now it's not looking quite so good. Going deep into the right angle turn 12, and now he's really struggling to get the power down through turn 14. He comes over the line now. What is it going to be? Is it going to be pole? Not quite on this occasion. It was looking like it could have been a pole challenging lap at least, but on this occasion, he's just fallen short, mainly due to that outbraking down there at turn 12.
Yeah, quite a few drivers making some mistakes, but it is not an easy car to drive. But yeah, Frelick getting on that pole position next to Ferris, Stanley and Polacek, rounding out the top 3 as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to a good race here for the AM category, but we'll just have a look now at the standings to see all the way down there, down to 10th place. We've got some new names here that you might actually not recognise either. Obviously, Opportunity Racing coming in with Plotchek and Vincent Goot. I believe that's their debuts in Formula Sim Racing, as well as Stepkowski, who's often coming in the off-season races as well. But it looks like it's very close on those lap times, and I think this 40-lap race is probably going to be quite open to any of these drivers to get a victory today.
Yeah, it's going to be a race of attrition, I think, judging by that qualifying session. We know how difficult the car is to drive, both understeer and oversteer in one package at some points, is this car at the moment. So it could be whoever keeps their car on the road for the most time. And it also could come down to strategy quite a lot, because we have got a number of options here, whether you go for an audacious one-stop or a rather simple two-stop. But even if you do take the two-stop, what tyres are you going to go for? It's quite a conundrum for all of these guys, and obviously they've probably got it figured out. They know what they're going to do, but obviously a spin and some damage is easily going to change things around for you once again, so it's going to be a very dynamic race.
It certainly is. I would be quite interested to see if anyone is going to try the one-stop. The race lengths were made on purpose to try and make it quite difficult to do a one-stop strategy. So the 40-lap race, and most people, if you just drive normally, will get 17 laps, maybe 18 out of a fuel tank. So you are going to need to save about 5, maybe 6 laps of fuel during the course of the race if you want to make a one-stop work. However, that can be done, obviously, if you use the slipstream, the lift and coast, things like that, to your advantage. So I have to see if anyone does try that. But while the drivers just do a bit of a warm-up session, we will take a bit of a look around this track from the one and only Mitchie Hoyer.
Welcome to the race Indy Championship by FSR. We're sitting in the Dallara DW12. We are starting our flying presentation lap for round 1 on the Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit. Across the line, Approaching turn 1, the best overtaking spot. Lots of slipstream into a heavy late braking zone. Be careful with that curb on the inside, don't want to touch it. But immediately open up the entry for turn 2, then carry the speed flat out turn 3. Early braking, stay all the way up on the inside turn 4 as the car becomes twitchy. While you want to open up the entry to that chicane we just flew through there, onto the back straight, approaching turn 7. Again, be careful with a high curb on the inside. A quick chicane, right, left. Stay all the way to the inside here because you want to maximize that entry speed as the power kicks in again on the car. Hard to control there on the exit into another late braking zone. Once again, one of these high curves, you definitely want to miss them. A narrow turn to the left before all the way up on the power. Once again, the power kicks in at the high revs and across the line. That is one lap around the Indianapolis circuit, and now we see the Pro and AM drivers to battle it out.
And welcome back to the first race of the IndyAM Championship, brought to you by the Race and Formula Sim Racing. We've just had qualifying for the first race of this season here at the Indianapolis GP. Simon Fröhlich actually got there on pole position, so he's probably the one to look out for as you come into this 40-lap feature race. But also just to let you know, there is a pro category that will be on the race's YouTube channel a little bit later on at 18:40 GMT, where they will also have a sprint race as well, and some of the best drivers in R Factor 2. But here for the AM category, we've got some guys who are obviously trying to show their worth, potentially to either maybe a new team or just for a bit of fun here using the IndyCar series. But yeah, Cameron Roger here with you, and alongside me is Ewan O'Leary.
Yeah, welcome back to the to the race bit. I guess we just had qualifying where Fröhlich has taken the pole, and going to be interesting to see who takes the race by the scruff of the neck now in the 40-lap race. We're just about to start in a couple of minutes' time, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting race, that is for sure. Getting this new car underway that's been tuned by Alan Terzic, so everybody's got the same machinery completely. You can't change anything to it, and it's just about who is able to kind of handle it the best and make the strategy, which we'll talk about quite a lot throughout the race, work the best as well, because it's going to be a big conundrum for all of these guys on fuel and tyres. So yeah, going to be a very interesting race and a very interesting 40 laps.
It certainly will be, and the main sort of talking point is going to be the strategy, because the only rule for them is that they have to use both tyres. Both compounds of tyres. Apart from that, they can do whatever they want. They can start on whatever compound they want. They can do a 1-stop, they can do a 2-stop, they can do a 5-stop if they want. So it's pretty much open to what they can do. And I'm pretty interested to see if anyone's going to try a 1-stop. You will have to save quite a bit of fuel, but I think someone might try it.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's worth trying at some point anyway, but possibly at a circuit like Indianapolis where you are on full throttle for so long, it might not be the best idea, because it's quite I would imagine it's quite a fuel-heavy circuit. But when you start to get to places like Portland where you're not actually on the throttle for that long, then things could get a little bit more interesting. I think the 1-stop will become more viable, but the series has been geared towards 2-stop races, so hopefully it's been balanced out perfectly, and the 1-stop and the 2-stop are pretty much identical in terms of the time it takes, and that really would be very exciting to see. But we'll wait and find out. It's a new endeavour for everybody, really, because nobody, unless you count the pre-season races, which are always a little bit. They don't always mean much, because it's only a pre-season race, and some people would treat it like that. But now we're racing for real now, it could be different, and yeah, we could see the 1-stop at least be attempted by somebody.
Yeah, I'm I'm thinking someone's going to try it. Out of all of these drivers, I'm thinking someone's going to try it. However, obviously this is the AM category, so potentially some of these guys don't want to take as big a risk to do that, because the two-stop is going to be, I guess, a lot easier, because you can the alternates are very good tires, so they can go a long way. They can pretty much do a full tank of fuel, which means you can run really long on 2 alternates and then do a splash and dash at the end for the primes potentially. Or you might want to balance that a little bit more. We will see what happens. But yeah, the drivers will be going onto their formation lap in a minute, and we will see who is going to be starting on what tires as well, because there is that free choice. So definitely looking forward to see what can happen there over this 40-lap race. And it is going to be a rolling start, which is obviously a little bit different to what we've seen previously in other series as well.
Yeah, I think it means that the field is going to be ultimately more bunched down into turn 1 and 2. Here's the starting order on your screen, by the way. Freelik and Stanley on the front row, Tobias Polocek in third ahead of Thomas Vac, and then moving on to the next 4, Stepowski, Barbakov, Batala and Adrahama Zoa, or something like that, down there in 8th position. His name's so long it doesn't fit on the graphic on the left hand side when we actually get into the race. Dan Brantholm, on the 9th position. Vincent Gutt, Carre, Hagendijk as well. Yeah, and finally 3 more, Miram, Loriot and Longcar, all here. 14 actually qualified. Ian Longcar didn't for some reason, but he will be there for the race. And as he said, rolling start, which I think will make things a little bit more bunched up, because the guy from behind will be able to get a little bit more slipstream down into turn 1 and just close in on those in front, whereas from a standing start, because you're going a little bit slower heading into turn 1, things get a little bit more spaced out. But here we are with the Corvette safety car, pace car at least it is, for the formation lap here, just running around there at the circuit, driven by Cam, by the way. So he's talking and driving at the same time, but hopefully not spinning.
Yeah, that is obviously the plan. Yeah, we got a manual safety car. It is quite unlikely to be called, but race director Jacob Reed will be calling that if it's needed. However, on the road course races, it is going to be not necessarily used up, but the drivers, as we come around turn 10, will be gridding up, and then they'll be getting into a nice formation. So drivers grid up, drivers grid up.
Yeah, and obviously they'll be going 2 by 2 for a normal rolling start, and then the pace car is going to accelerate away from the field and into the pit lane. 80 k's an hour is what Simon Freelik has to hold now, and he is in control of the field, but he can't go yet. He's got to wait until at least he's past the curb at turn 14, when you get onto that straight basically, and you see the arch open up in front of you. You can see the bricks. And then he will be able to drop the hammer. But through turn 13 now, Freelik looks ready, everybody looks ready, and we're ready to kick off the IndyCar Series for the AM Championship.
Yeah, so here we go, coming out of the final corner. As soon as he gets to the end of this curb on the inside, he can choose when to go. So we're going to see if he accelerates straight away, or if he's going to wait. And he's waiting. When is he going to go? He's going to wait right till the very end, but he
Green flag.
Okay, here we go. So we've gone green. We are racing now for the AM category, rated right till the end of that straight. But let's see what happens as we come now down into turn number 1. Seems like Freelik has kept that lead, so is Ferris Stanley into second place. We'll go 3 wide in the middle here. We've got Thomas Schwack and a couple of other cars there involved. Kelsey, bit of contact there as we come through. We've got Barbakov also trying to get through there. This is quite tight now, coming down into turn number 4. Got Batala there getting past Skouti as well as they fly over that curb coming onto the back straight. But this has looked like a pretty good start so far, as we now see Goot coming down the outside coming into turn 7. That's going to be very difficult on the braking zone, as there's a nice big curb on the inside. He's going to have to fill in there, but that looked like a fairly nice lap 1 so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty clean actually, apart from the fact that Stepowski was just getting shuffled back and hit by everybody on the way through, really. He was caught in a HM Engineering sandwich with Vac and Barbakov, I believe, just squashing him into turn 1. But Freelik has converted that pole position into a pretty good start. The top 3 have actually stayed the same, but we have got quite a difference in the tyre strategies going on at the moment. The top 3 on the alternates, but Vak and Barbakov, both HM Engineering cars, went for the primes straight away. Interestingly though, they did get quite a good start and were able to shuffle a few cars back, and they're battling between themselves now. Vak has to go defensive into turn 1, but Barbakov doesn't look like he's going to press his teammate too hard down into turn 1 on this occasion. However, if they're battling like this, then they are going to be caught by those cars behind on the faster tyres.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting strategy to see them coming on the primes first. Obviously, this is now going to give them an advantage at the end of the race, so don't expect them to necessarily be fighting for the lead in this first half of the race, but they're certainly fighting each other now coming down into turn 7. Doesn't look like these guys are really being too friendly, as they're obviously teammates. There isn't a specific team championship in the AM division, it's only a drivers championship. However, obviously we allowed teams to sign up and use their livery as their team, but it looks like these guys are going to be fighting. However, that has given quite a big gap actually to the top 3 after only obviously the first couple of laps of this race.
Yeah, it's 2.2 seconds, or possibly even nearly 3 seconds now. It was 2 seconds after the first lap, which is to be expected because of all the craziness that went on, but after that it is just on pure pace, and that is the kind of advantage that you do lose when you're on the prime straight away. However, if that's the tyre to be avoided, then definitely people are going to be using it later on, where they're not, as Barbakov goes, Vak goes way wide, and he's been overtaken by 2 cars. Barbakov gets through, Batala gets through as well, and now Stepalski is going to try and get through as well. A big mistake from Vak, probably just looking in his mirrors a little bit too much, and that has allowed a couple of cars through.
And now Stepkowski is coming on the back of them, trying to slipstream. The slipstream is quite nice actually on this car, as we're now coming to turn 7. He's dived down the inside. Can he make it on the brakes? They're still side by side actually coming into turn 8. He's got to push him a little bit, so Vak now gets pushed down to 3rd position. So that is not a good couple of sectors there for Tomasz, as we'll see a replay now, although actually got the overlay there. But Vak then on the brakes, locked up those rears, went slightly off the track there, a bit of contact. Batala goes through as well, and unfortunately that is going to be him down a couple of places.
Yeah, he's lost 3 on 1 lap now, which is not good for Vak at all, and Stepalski looks like he's going to try and make even more progress straight away here on Batala, and now we'll see into turn 1, but when you've got that double slipstream, and Batala's getting a slipstream of course, and it's quite difficult to get through when you're all in a train like that, but they are going to, good cutback, good attempts, but not quite got the exit off of turn 2 to make any moves down here into a tricky, ever tightening right-hander at turn 4. Now obviously just a flick through 5 and 6 to go, and down onto the straight again. It was impressive from Stepalski there, the way he was trying to just use that undercut, but just got caught up a little bit on that curb, and I don't think this car really likes curves very much. Not single-seaters generally don't, and you just saw why there. You saw the massive slide that Stepalski got, and he really wasn't able to get the exit at all.
Yeah, a bit difficult this car on the curbs actually, and this track in general has some massive curbs, just like on the inside of this corner they're coming through now, as they just bob over it. It's quite big actually. It's really sort of curbs, I guess, designed for maybe GT cars or something along those lines. However, we are obviously here in the DW12, so they need to get used to those and potentially avoid them a little bit. I was now looking at Batala getting a little bit closer, but he's actually having to defend a little bit from Stepkowski really here, coming into the first turn of this lap that we're now on to lap number 5. We're on to here for the 40 laps around Indianapolis, as we're now seeing back here Goot in 9th place. So all drivers do get points. Basically the top 30 drivers get points as well. 35 points it is for a victory, jumping down to 30 for 2nd place. As we're now seeing actually Barbakov now trying to battle a little bit here, coming through turn 8 and 9. Batala's trying to get past there. Barbakov held on, but we're now looking at Stepkowski trying to get down the inside there of turn 10. This is now going to get Vak all up beside him, round the outside of turn 11. That's going to be a bit bold if he can hold it around the outside there, because he will be on the outside here, also into the braking zone, so he's going to have to let that one go. As these guys are battling, Batala goes off just ahead of them. and that could allow quite a big slipstream here for Stepkowski. If he can stay close out of this final corner, he's going to be in a really good position now to try and make it work, although he actually lost a tiny bit there on the mid part of that corner, so I don't think he's going to be getting too close just now, but he's closing in, not going to be quite close enough, but maybe on this next lap he'll be able to get close enough to make an overtake.
Yeah, it is very close between the three of them anyway, down here at the first chicane once again, but no way through for Stepkowski at the moment. Big lock-up for the second braking zone in a row there for Batala, not really getting accustomed to the brakes and struggling just a little bit as they bounce their way across those curves again, but yeah, nothing doing really down here into turn 7 now. I thought there was going to be a move on at some point, and I'm amazed that through all that carnage almost, or it was certainly had the potential to be carnage anyway, none of the positions actually changed, which is somewhat remarkable given what we actually saw, but yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes, and these lot have just spread out ever so slightly, but they're providing most of the entertainment for the moment. The lead gap is about 2 or 3 seconds for the moment. There's a little bit of a battle going on for second, but no punches have really been thrown, as now...
Thomas Vac, he's come in already. What's this lap? End of lap 6, he's come in. So he's trying to get rid of those primes as soon as possible. And this is potentially going to be a good strategy if he is taking those... if he's going to do 2 alternate tyres. Because as I said, the alternates are actually pretty good tyres. So he can make a double alternate work from here. And that is going to work out pretty well for him, I think. Because he probably started with pretty much a full tank. So then he would have only pit stopped to top up his tank again, I would assume, which is why his pit stop actually wasn't too long. So this could be really good for Thomas Vac. We need to see if anyone responds to this, but often, because of the way obviously refueling works, sometimes it is actually more beneficial to stay out a bit longer.
Yeah, because Vac is going to be out there with a heavy car for the second time this race. He's not really had even a remotely low fuel throughout this race yet, and that is not great really. You want to be having the lightest fuel load for the longest possible time, but the added benefit he's got is that was a short stop, and now Barbakov follows him through. This is a clear HM Engineering strategic call that they've gone for straight away. They know exactly how long they can go on 2 tanks of fuel. They've decided that 34 laps for Vac is absolutely fine to get to the end of the race, and I think it probably will be. 2 alternate set of tyres, that's going to be 17 laps each, which is doable as well. So Brantholm is also in, by the way, but yeah, HM Engineering have really drawn up this strategy, and now with this bit of an undercut they've got going on, we're going to see if they can make it work. But yeah, it's clever strategy from those guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, I said about 17-18 laps is what you can get out of a fuel tank without saving, so it looks like that's probably what they're going to do. They've obviously done the short stint on the primes, and now they're going to go as fast as they can on these 2 sets of alternate tyres. However, as you mentioned, they will now be on a heavy car because they will surely have a full tank of fuel, so need to see how that one works out as we're looking at Stepkowski trying to get on the back of Batala this fight for what is now 4th position, and these guys are already a decent way behind Stanley, ahead of them actually. So the top 3 drivers are starting to pull away. Well, since the start of the race really, they've been pulling away, but they're starting to get a really big gap that could actually benefit them, because that's pretty much half a pit stop that they've gained already. As Batala now defending into turn number 1. Can he defend it on the brakes? Yes, he can. He's doing a good job, although he locked up there. That could put him offline now coming through sector 1.
The amount of locking up he is doing at the moment is probably not helping a great deal, and there it is again, almost on cue down into turn 4, so a little bit of a wiggle on the exit as well, so not particularly comfortable as it is right now. Stepkowski really giving the pressure to the car in front at the moment, but can't get through as it stands. More pit stops down in the background, but Barbakov has come mysteriously 6 seconds behind. I think I'm reading that right. 6 seconds separates Vac and Barbakov, and I'm not entirely sure where all that margin has come from.
Could be with the fuel strategy. As I said, Vac's pit stop looked quite short, so I do wonder if he started on a full tank of fuel, which meant he would have then only used 6 laps, so then he would have only had to fill up 6 laps to get back. That could potentially be what he did, because his stop was really quite short. Whereas Barbakov maybe started on less fuel and therefore had to fill up a lot more. This is obviously all the things that need to be calculated. Either that, or Vac made a mistake somewhere. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're just being told, yeah, that was just the difference in their pit stop times. So yeah, Vac must have done something trick with the fuel there, which is probably why he was a bit slow at the start of the race, actually, because Barbakov was all over the back of him, and that would make sense if there was quite a big difference in the fuel strategies. So yeah, just quite an interesting one there. Different drivers going for different options.
Yeah, we can't forget that the tyres are not the only thing that these guys can really play around with the strategy here. There is also the fuel games going on, and it's a little bit more difficult for us to see the fuel games that go on because we don't know how much fuel they have started with. They don't know how much. We can kind of guess how much they're putting in because of the amount of seconds they're stationary, but it is a very difficult equation to make, and it's making for some very, very interesting strategic racing. But the guys out front at the moment, the top 5 or so, or at least the top 3, are still going around at the moment. They've done 10 laps on those alternate set of tyres, but when are they going to go for the primes? Are they going to go it through the middle of the race, or are they going to go right at the end? As Stepowski now really closes in, the closest he's ever been, and now he breaks late on the outside line into turn 1. It's going to give him the inside for turn 2, but he's been pushed out, and that was a very good defence there from Patala. Very firm, but also incredibly fair, just gave enough room and got to that P4, or at least held on to it for another lap.
That was a nice bit of racing there, as you say. He left him just enough room on the outside there, but also he wasn't overly kind. He just did what he had to do and managed to keep the position, which is looking really nice as we're now on to lap 11 of this race. And it looks like maybe he's starting to struggle a little bit. They've dropped off quite a long way. They're now about 17 seconds off the lead, is Bataya and Stepkowski. So yeah, dropped off decent amount. However, they could still potentially get themselves on for a top 5 finish. And with the way that the points work, it's actually pretty much 1 point per position, apart from the top couple. That means they're still going to be fairly close in the championship, but obviously that also means it's then harder to get those points back as we work our way later during the rounds. Also, the AM Championship is only a 5-round championship, as it will finish in Apple Valley round 5, because round 6 Indianapolis will only be a pre-qualifier as such for the Indy 300. So not too many rounds for these guys to try and get their positions. So yeah, quite important that they do make up each position that they can.
Yeah, and of course having a championship finale on an oval is not something that I've seen either, and that is going to be an exciting race for sure, with the multiple things going on. The only oval race for those guys, and the championship finale, so that is going to be very, very interesting indeed. But you just saw there Stepowski just lost a bit of time moving past a lap car there, one of the bottom 3, and then he just lost some time up, but he'd closed up so quickly. You can almost be sure that he is the faster out of this pairing at the moment, but he can't find a way through, and you've got to wonder at this point, is it worth going for an early pit stop? I know it might not be possible all of the time, but surely 12 laps into the race, an early pit stop is not a bad idea, especially with the HM engineering cars really undercutting you down in 8th and 9th at the moment, and the fact that you're just stuck behind Batala at the moment. So I don't know why Stepowski doesn't come into the pit lane and try something different.
Yeah, it's just that is the one thing about the refueling, is that sometimes you are a little bit stuck on your strategy, because obviously once you've put the fuel in, that's just what you've got as well. So that obviously affects how much you can take later on in the race and things like that. So maybe he's just trying to stick to his strategy a little bit. But I've just been having a little bit look further up, and Stanley's caught up to Plotchek as well for second place. There was actually a tiny bump between the two on the last lap, and I can actually tell you that Plotchek has got his pit light on. Or as he locks up here into turn 12, he's going to go off there. This could be awkward if he's coming into the pit lane, as Stanley goes past him for second place. But no, Plotchek actually continues. But just interesting, he's got his pit light on already, so he's obviously thinking. However, Frelich is in. Race leader Frelich is in. What he's going to take, set those prime compound tyres. This is end of lap 13. So this is too long to go to the end of the race. So he will have to make another pit stop. But I assume he's going to take another set of those alternates towards the end of the race as well. But we need to see where he is going to filter back in, because Thomas Vack has obviously already made his pit stop.
Yeah, he has, and you can see another reason why the guys won't be going for a one-stop, or they could go for a one-stop today, because this pit lane is incredibly long, although they have just released the pit limiter now, or he has anyway, as Vack is still coming down the pit straight. That gap looks closer, though, than it was before, so the two HM Engineering cars are definitely gaining time on those in front. The gap between Batala and Polotczek was about 10, or is about 10 seconds at the moment. Just waiting for that gap to readjust with Vack and Freelik, but I think that is less than 10 seconds, and that he is making big inroads into that top three. He could even find himself on the podium if he plays his strategy right, because he hasn't got to use the prime tyre again, whereas those up front do.
And something that's quite interesting now is that Vack behind is also on the, so he's going to be on less fuel, and he's on the alternate tyres. So I think Vack could be challenging here as Stepkowski now comes into the pit lane to maybe try and undercut Bataya. Let's see how Bataya reacts to this one. Andrea Maharazoa also currently in 5th place. Obviously he will drop down a little bit, but Vack is certainly going to be a lot closer to Freelik in the next sort of 5 or 10 laps, as there isn't too far between those guys.
Now, just at the moment, this is Vack. Is he already on the back of Freelik? I do believe he is. Oh, it's the back marker, sorry. I'm just getting in the way. There's a lot of blue-coloured cars here, and blue and black-coloured cars. I'm getting quite confused, but Vack is just getting... Oh, a little bit of a nip out the way there to the right-hand side, and there's a battle now between Barbakov and Miram, and now he is through. Is Barbakov, so up another position, but he is in the trail of his teammate at the moment. He's going to be probably quite disappointed with the way this has gone, as something that...
So I just went on to a plot check to see what he's doing. He's just ran into the back of Chris Hagendijk. He's going to have to come in for his pit stop. He's got no front wing, so that's going to be a longer pit stop as well. Hopefully he selects to repair the damage. But yeah, Hagendijk, I think, was trying to let him through into Sector 3. And just as I click on him, he ran into the back. So yeah, that is really unfortunate.
Oh dear. Yeah, out of the race for Polotczek. From a possible podium getting position, I guess you could say. Now a DNF, and very unfortunate for him. As now down, we're going to see... Oh, this is just the aftermath, really. Chris Hagendijk has got a whole lap to do without a rear wing at the moment, and there it is. There is the moment. I think he was trying to let him through. I think you're right there, Cal. I think he was trying to let him through, but on the racing line, slowing down like that, possibly not the best idea. Although Polotczek probably should have known he was going quite slowly because of the way he was so far to the left.
Okay, we've had a mass disconnection, so we're going to red flag and try and resolve the issue. So red flag for server mass disconnection.
Interesting. So we have had a situation where we're going to call a red flag. Now let me just double check the rules on where we are at. So we are on lap 17, which means we are less than halfway through the race. So we will have a restarted attempt from the grid as it stands on the previous lap. So that is what is going to be happening. Obviously, we'll try and update you with what is going to be happening as soon as possible, but the drivers will be going back into the pit lane, and then we will be obviously trying to work out what is going to happen with that one. But that is obviously quite an unusual situation for those guys.
Yeah, I wonder if Polotczek did actually DNF there, or if he did disconnect. It's I'm not entirely sure, because there's no real way of knowing. But yeah, probably about just under half the grid there disconnecting. So that is why we are going to try again. Not entirely sure if it's for the full 40 laps, or if it is just for the remaining 23 or 22, or however many it is. But we'll find out in a moment, I guess. But as I said, we are, or as Cam said, should I say, we are less than half of the way through the race. So it's a restart of some description. I'd imagine if it was just over half, then it'd be half points or something like that. But we didn't get there, as I believe Stanley is still pretty much racing here because he's gone to the pit lane and he's come out again. But now it looks like the whole thing has been restarted. But yeah, one question to you, Cam. I guess people will want to know as well. Is it going to be the full 40 laps, or is it just the remaining 23?
Yes, so it will be the remaining lap count, and they will basically start where they were. So they were on lap 17, I believe. So that will be where it's actually going to be a little bit unfortunate for the people who have just made their pit stop, but unfortunately, that is how it goes. So that will be where it is taken from, and then obviously we will restart. So the server will be getting a quick restart, and then drivers who DNF will also be able to jump back in. So we will just try and organize that as best as possible. So obviously just give us a couple of minutes to restart that war. But to be honest with you, and I think that race was actually going pretty well so far for a lot of those drivers. There was obviously a lot of different strategy options going on there.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things going on with the prime and the alternate tyre and the fuel as well. Some very good strategy from Thomas Vack actually, but I don't think it's going to quite pan out how he wanted to. Although it may still, because everybody's going to have to make one more stop in this race, given it's 23 laps, and he doesn't have to use the prime tyre, and everyone's closed up to him. So I think suddenly it might start looking quite good for Vack, but. Yeah, basically, do people get a free pit stop here then if because of the red flag, they can kind of change their tyres, I guess?
Yeah, that is obviously something that is what it is. So it'll basically be a race, a continuation of the race. So it will restart from where it was. So we will obviously try and open up the server in a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to speak to the guys over the team radio to let them know what is going on. So what is going to happen is the server will be restarted if possible, and then once that is open, you will be able to join back in, and we will basically start from where the race was in the order. So obviously, because that is around the pit stops, that means some people are going to gain and lose, but unfortunately we can't change that. That is just the fact of what has happened. But we will take the result from where the standings were, and that will be the grid for this next race. Obviously, it'll be a shortened race. It will be just the lap count remaining. We will do the same start procedure again with the formation lap, and it will basically, as I said, be a continuation, but obviously you'll be able to have a new fuel and tyre strategy. But yeah, once the server is back up, we will tell you the exact lap counts and grid. So just bear with us a couple of minutes and we'll let you know when it's back up and ready.
Yes, obviously.
It's going to be quite interesting now to see what they do, because obviously people's strategies are now going to be a little bit changed.
Yeah, they are. People have. I think that this particularly advantage, while it's, I'm thinking of people like Vack and Barbakov here, HM Engineering strategy, I think was really coming off actually, in the end. Or it would have. But with this new situation we've got in front of us, I think that those who have used the prime tyre already will be advantaged, whether you're at the front of the field or the back. So people like HM Engineering and Adra Hamazoa, I think, has already used the prime tyre, and a couple of others down the order. However, if you're having to start this portion of the race on the primes, you haven't got that buffer that you would have, because obviously those top three, I'm thinking in particular, had a 10-second gap to most of those in behind, and they would have that 10-second gap to fall back on throughout their prime tyre stint. However, they're not going to have that anymore, so it's going to make things more exciting for us, because they're going to have to defend harder now, because the cars that they were trying to keep away from them are right behind them now, and that makes things very difficult. However, I think the only real people who've been disadvantaged by this are the faster drivers, so I actually think this is going to make things quite a lot more interesting for us.
Yeah, so it's certainly going to be quite an interesting situation, to be honest. Obviously, this this doesn't really happen often, which is obviously a fortunate thing. It can happen. Obviously we're working with software, hardware, technology, internet, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, quite interesting to see what these guys are going to do. I'm already seeing in our Discord, obviously people asking, and obviously things such as like the tire rules and that aren't going to be valid now because obviously it being interrupted. So it's going to be just too long as well to get to the race. So they are going to have to make a pit stop. So I assume most people will maybe do 2 alternate to the end now. But again, we will see. We'll see how that goes.
Okay, yeah. So I've just misled everyone there basically because you don't have to use the prime and the
because
the alternate anymore.
Yeah, because obviously everyone's strategy is messed up. So in the rules, it's already built into a situation like this. Then we don't obviously penalize people because obviously people are going to gain from this. But obviously the people who are trying to do the right thing, we don't want them to then be disadvantaged. So it is going to turn into a sprint race, and the server is now opening. So we will do our best to get back in there, and it should be not too long before we get going again with the sprint race. But yeah, this is going to be this is going to be quite an interesting situation.
Hectic is the word, and there's going to be down into turn 1 probably with a bit of a sprint race format. The former race leader, Freilich, is going to be down in something like 6th position or something that was not where he was before, that's for sure. So we got one of the fastest drivers way down the order. Well, not way down, but certainly in the midfield, and that is going to mean things are going to be very, very hectic down into turn 1 and 2 for the first time again. I wonder if we're going to have another formation lap and come driving the safety car again. I presume another rolling start completely.
Yeah, we will do. So yeah, we'll effectively turn into a new race. So yeah, that is obviously going to have its own restart. So yeah, we will do what we can.
Yep, and I presume that I don't think anybody was actually out of the race at the point that we did have that server crash, where 6 people disconnected. But either way, if you were previously DNF, then you'll be able to get back in anyway. So it doesn't really matter, and it's given a bit of a lifeline to those who were a lap down, because we did start to see the lappery kind of begin to take place with some people getting out the way and whatever because of issues earlier on in the race, or just because they were being caught. So yeah, that's all going to be removed now, and it is a total sprint race almost. Not quite as short as the sprint races we're going to see in just over an hour's time for the pro race, but just a little bit of a longer sprint race with a pit stop in between, which is kind of a distance that we're probably not going to see again in this series, to be honest. It's just going to be a bit of a one-off.
Yeah, yeah, we're just discussing now what exactly the process is going to be. But yeah, it will be a obviously a sprint race for these guys, but obviously currently they don't also know what it's going to be, so they're going to have to think of their strategy really quickly, to be honest, once it's announced.
However, they will have to, as we keep mentioning, will make a stop, despite the fact that the tyre rule has been removed and some people are not going to be using the prime tyres throughout the whole of this event now. They are going to have to refuel because 23 laps is too long to go on one tank of fuel. I believe it's 23 laps anyway, I keep saying this, but that was just from my maths earlier on. But it could be 24 or 22. We'll find out a little bit later or in a minute. But yeah, we've still got a shortish race to come anyway here. So yeah, going to be interesting. Going to see what's going to happen and how the order is going to shuffle. And I'm sure it is going to shuffle, to be honest, because we were, as Cam said, as we were midway through the pit stop cycle. I would argue that the whole race is a bit of a pit stop cycle. That's just the way the strategic game's really in this series. You've just got people flying into the pit lane from all angles, and it does get quite busy down in the pit lane almost all of the time. So it's hard to have a good point in the race for these things to happen, but they're not meant to happen, and that's kind of why. So it's unfortunate, but it's the situation we have, and it's going to make for a very explosive final few laps with people trying to make up positions and make use of the limited amount of time they have out there on the circuit.
Yeah, they. One interesting thing with a red flag situation as well is that the people who DNF'd can come back in, so they will be able to obviously, I guess, potentially get points that they wouldn't have. But it's just a situation they will obviously have to start from the back, though.
Yep, they will. I don't believe anyone was DNF beforehand, but I could be wrong. So either way, it doesn't matter at this point, as we mentioned, because they're going to be straight back onto the back of the field, and they will be ready. All 15 of them, presumably, will be back and ready for the second portion of this race. Unsure as to how many laps it's actually going to be, as Cam goes to discuss some things. As you could probably hear, they're probably looking at about 50 different things at once, to be honest, trying to figure out, because he is technically race direction, or part of it anyway, as well as commentator at the same time. He's just safety car driver and race direction at the pro race, where I'll be with Lewis McGlade, of course, in just over an hour's time. That's going to be on the Races YouTube channel for the pro race, and I believe at last count, or at the count that I saw from the entry list, I believe it's 26 teams. 26 drivers on 13 different teams for the Pro Series race, which will happen at 20 to 8 UK, 20 to 9 in Europe. As I just try and count while talking, count the teams. It's probably more. I think it's actually 30 drivers, but anyway, it's a lot of drivers and a lot of very high class drivers as well. And I believe we're 15 teams and 30 drivers. I believe we've got 33 for the Indy 300 as well, which is a good. And very much looking forward to that race, the 120 laps around the oval, when we return to Indianapolis to bookend this season. But Cam's back now. Might have some news.
Yeah, I was just speaking with race direction. So it looks like we're also time limited as well. So there's going to be a lap count, which is the lap count for the remaining laps from where it was being taken, but also there'll be a time limit, which will probably be elapsed first, because obviously we need to make sure we're finished plenty of time for the pro race later on as well. So we're just moving, and behind the scenes we're just moving back into the warm-up session where the grid will be loaded, and then we will get going in a couple of minutes. So in a sec I will just announce that to the drivers.
Yep. So Cam's probably going to come over the radio here in just a moment once he's speaking with the race direction. But the drivers, here we go.
So drivers for the AM category. So we will be taking the results from basically lap 15, which means there's 25 laps to go. However, we are also time limited because obviously we have the pro race later as well. So we've got about 25 minutes left till we need to be finished. So it will be a 25 lap race, but also limited by 25 minutes as well because of the time limit. Therefore, we're probably going to obviously run out of the time first. So obviously I can't now confirm how many laps it's going to be, but will now be a time limited race. So we'll get going as soon as possible to give you as much racing as possible. So we have loaded in the grid as well. So this is the grid from that lap that we've taken it from. So obviously, yes, someone has probably gained and got an advantage and someone has probably got a disadvantage, but that is just the situation we are in. So we will now do the same procedure with the formation lap. I will drive through the middle and pick them up, pick up the grid. You will then go around in your double file and then we'll do a start. So anyone who obviously DNF'd that is now back in, you can race as you please. And obviously now the tyre rule is also abandoned. So from now to the end of the race, you can do whatever you want on fuel and tyres. So hopefully that all makes sense. So yes, Stoyan, 25 minutes and 25 laps, but obviously you're not going to do 25 laps in that time. That is just obviously what we are, the situation we are in. So the tyres, you can do whatever you want on tyres, you can do whatever you want on fuel, because that is obviously now not an issue, because we're not in that situation anymore. So we'll get going in just a couple of seconds time, and then we'll try and give you as much racing as you can. So good luck, and again, apologies for the red flag, but we tried to deal with this as best as possible.
There we are then. Just informing the drivers about what is going to happen here when we resume this 25 lap / 25 minute time certain race, because obviously we've got to get off and get ready again for the Pro Series race, which is going to happen 20 to 8 UK time and 20 to 9 in Europe. But here's the starting grid, or there was the starting grid. I've got 5th at the top of the moment. We're going to get first at the top so you can see all of the drivers in all their glory. Here we go. Ferris Stanley on the pole, then Polotzek in second. He's got a full front wing again now as well, which is good for him. Batala is in third. Freelich fourth. After starting on pole, he's probably going to be a little bit disappointed with how this has played out, but he's just got to deal with it at this point. Vak and Barbakov are on the third row ahead of Miram and Stepalski, who is an independent in 8th position. Adre Hamazawa is in 9th for Royal Blue, ahead of Vincent Good in 10th. Brantholm alongside Kere for 11th and 12th. And then we've got Hagendijk versus L'Oreal in 14th position. And then Ian Longcar in 15th position, rounding off this grid for 25 minutes of action here at the Indy GP circuit. And now it looks like we are out there on the circuit again. So, 25 minutes basically, because, if by some miracle we get around 25 laps in 25 minutes, then it really would be astonishing. But, we should be 25 minutes to the end now. And some very exciting racing to boot as well.
Yeah, but obviously time has been lost for the formation lap as well. But going to be an interesting situation for these drivers. They can do whatever they want on tyres and fuel now. Obviously, because of the time as well, they don't actually know necessarily how many laps it's going to be. But as the saying goes, it's the same for everyone. Drivers grid up, drivers grid up.
Yeah, indeed. Just saw Cam miss an apex there, but we won't worry about that. As the guys just slow down ever so slightly here for the second rolling start of the day. A little bit more messy, this one. The guys in a bit more of a rush this time. It's Stanley versus Polotzek on the front row on this occasion, with Batala and Freelich, the two blue and white cars in behind. Now we're going to see if Stanley holds it on for quite as long as Freelich did on the first start.
Now, what is Stanley going to do? He's been gifted this position at the front. Can he make it count? So anytime now, he is able to go. They're all gridded up, and they're ready to go green for this now sprint race format for the AM category. And when
green flag,
they're going to go green flag for everyone now. So we're coming now down into turn number 1. Who is going to get the jump? And it seems like Stanley has kept his lead coming now down into turn number 1. Is anyone going to be too impatient on the brakes? It looks like actually, maybe the contact there between, I think that's Freelich in 3rd place, but he's managed to hold on to that nicely. We've got Barbakov and Vak now coming through turn 3 and 4. Vak's gone off. Vak has gone off there. That is going to be huge implications for him, because he's going to have even less laps now. Someone else has gone off. Batala has gone off coming through. He's actually... No, he's hit the wall, unfortunately, so he's going to have to come back in for some repairs. So Vak and Batala, 2 big losers there from the start of that race. And they will have to probably come in, at least Batala will have to come in for some damage repairs as well.
Yeah, a bit more of a messy start on that occasion. It was very clean first time around, a little bit more rushed second time around, and it's people in a rush down there into turn 1 because there's not as many laps to go in this race. You need to make the progress where you can, and that is what the guys like Freelich were trying to do. The 2 HM Engineering cars were going side by side for quite a long time as well. But they were able to make it work on the first occasion. Not on this occasion, though. Ferris Stanley's going to have a big defending job to do down into turn 1. He's weaving once, weaving twice, and now he might defend once again. There he goes. See if Polotze can get down the inside. Not quite on this occasion. He's so close to the back of the white DW12 in front of him. And now look in the background as well. Freilich is right in behind all of these guys. Pretty much everybody on the alternate tyre now. It's not a game of tyres, purely a game of fuel and a game of on-track battling as well.
And whoever took enough fuel at the start, because obviously they don't know how many laps they're going to do. There's now 21 minutes left in the race. Obviously you see the lap counter, I can see the time. There's just gone 21 minutes to go. So they are going to, well, yeah, they're going to have to calculate that in their head as they go along. Maybe some of these drivers have an engineer, we'll see how this one works. But yeah, that is going to that's going to be quite interesting how this one is going to work between these drivers. But yeah, it's now just a sprint race, and it could be a game of who has taken enough fuel or not, I would assume. I'll try and do a bit of math to see how many laps they're going to do, but we're already coming to lap 3, as now Polacek he's going to at least battle here now down into turn number 1. He's got the slip machine, he's going to have to go to the outside. And can he make it work around the outside? Stanley's going to push him just a little bit, but he's still there, coming into turn number 2. And this has got Freilich all over the back of them now, as they've now got a 3-way fight for this lead.
All wide though, wide at turn 4 for Freilich, and that's not good for him. Polotze has not got a bad exit. He bounces across the turn 6 curb, and he might try and go up the inside into turn 7. Stanley defends once again, but just fades back onto the racing line once again. And they really just push each other almost through this little section of curves. And now Freilich, oh, big slide again for him. These curbs are not very nice to these cars at all. And you just saw exactly why there through turn 8 and 9. Now here we go into 12, avoiding that curb as well on the inside. But Freilich has hit it for the second lap in a row. Now then, what can Polotze do into turn 1? He's given it a good go for the last 2 laps, but he was also a lot closer to Stanley than he is on this occasion, so I'm not expecting any moves down into turn 1. However, the slipstream is quite powerful in these Indy cars, and you can come from a long way back because the braking zones are quite long as well. However, Polotze is too far back. Oh, and he's been hit. In the back. He's been hit by Freilich, and now he's just given that position, so Freilich has allowed Polotze to retake that second and regather himself, but Barbakov is now into the frame in this battle.
So interesting fact, I've just calculated there. I believe they're going to do either 19 or 20 laps, which means some people here might have to splash and dash for a couple of laps of fuel if they don't save. And this could be really big to see actually who is going to have to do that or not. And that could be quite a crucial factor into this race, because obviously going through the pit lane loses you tons of time. So if you can actually save those couple of laps of fuel, then you will obviously benefit quite a lot. But it doesn't look like any of these drivers are saving, so I believe a lot of these drivers are going to have to make a splash and dash, which is, well, quite a interesting situation, because obviously these guys really didn't have that long to work out what their strategy was going to be. So I do wonder if some of these drivers are going to fall short of that.
Yeah, it's not like you can turn the fuel mix down on these cars. There's going to be a lot of lifting and coasting going on because you are locked in the highest fuel mix. They'll be going as fast as they can on the engine for all of the races this season, indeed, as well. So there's going to be a lot of lifting and coasting going on if you're trying to make this no stop work, which is a bizarre thing to be saying when you think about this from the start of the day, from thinking about 1 stop or 2 stop, or maybe even more if you're particularly audacious. But now, with this situation, who can make the fuel last long enough for a no-stop strategy? The tyres should be okay. The tyres should make it 19 or 20 laps, however many we're going to get. But the difference could be how fast these guys actually go. If it's a really fast race here, then we could get 20, and that could push it out of the window for some of these guys. However, if it's a little bit of a slower race, if there's a lot of battling going on, then it could be a 19-lap race, and that could bring it into the window for some of these guys.
It is going to be so close. We've just gone under 17 minutes to go. Unfortunately, obviously, I said, yeah, you can't see that on your screen, but I will keep you updated as best I can. So it's now 16:45 to go as Polotze defends down this front straight. And Frillick is now on the back fin, pulled out a little bit too early, so maybe actually trying to do a little bit of saving there potentially in that slipstream. But these guys are certainly pushing quite hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of these drivers actually did take a full tank of fuel. Therefore, they do give themselves this opportunity to do a bit of saving. But at the moment, Stanley is leading the way rather nicely, actually. He's got a couple of seconds gap now to these guys as they're battling behind him. So Stanley is looking good, but who is going to have to make a pit stop?
Yeah, that is the ultimate question in this race at the moment. Thomas Vack is the first one to come into the pit lane, apart from Batala, who is out of this race, I'm afraid. But Vack has been in, and he's out again. So he's clearly made a pit stop for some fuel, and maybe even for some damage if he did get it a little bit earlier on. Unconfirmed though, not entirely sure if he was. He was involved in a few battles, so damage wouldn't surprise me too much. However, that could be the first strategic stop just to get himself out of that traffic, get his splash done as early as possible. He's just ahead of Hagendijk at the moment there in that kind of yellowy car in the background. But he's got a long way to chase up to the guys in front, especially if they're not making a pit stop, which for the moment they're all staying out, which you'd expect. We're probably expecting them to at least try and go out there for all of the laps, but when they get around to the pit lane for the next time and realise they've only got 1 litre of fuel left, they might just go for the splash.
As Frillick goes quite wide there, Barbkov has got an awesome slipstream, really closing in now as he comes towards the braking zone, moves to the outside of turn 7. He's going to have to go round the outside. That will give him the inside, but he's not got enough of his car alongside him, and they will now back out into 8 and 9, which you can't really overtake it anyway, and then through turn number 10 now as we just go under 15 minutes to go left in this race. We're already on to lap 7 as now Barbkov goes really wide to try and get himself a nice run. But what you're saying about Vac, it could actually help him now if he goes into some clean air, and if the people ahead do make a pit stop as well. That clean air could be really good as now Barbkov out the inside of the final corner. That's not going to work.
No.
Big contact there. Frillick goes off. Can he get out the wall? Yes, he can. So both of them do a bit of a 360. As I can see, I think both of those guys actually got some penalties. Have Andrea Mahazo now coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, so first pit stop's being made. Let's have a look at this incident though with Barbkov and Frillick battling for third at the time. Now Frillick doesn't get the best exit. Barbkov gets a storming exit, gets his car halfway alongside, gets his car a little bit loose as well, has to correct by turning left basically, and that's exactly where Frillick's car was. They go for a bit of synchronized spinning, but they actually got out ahead, or pretty unscathed actually, without damage, and they're battling each other here once again. It's given Ferris Stanley another bit of a lead here into at the moment on lap 8, but Frillick and Barbkov still battling. Now they're going to try and chase down Brantholm, which I think they're going to be able to manage. It's also given Stepalski a bit of a buffer, but Andrea Hamazoa also into the pit lane. He's out behind Vac now. So it's interesting to note that some of these guys are going for strategic fuel stops, knowing that they're not going to be able to make it all of this way. They're not even going to attempt to make it. It looks like at the front of the field, though, they are going to at least try to make it before having to do that stop. As I'll eat my words, actually, because Brantholm and Frillick are already in.
Interesting. So they're obviously seeing that they need to at least have a couple of laps worth of fuel. I'm sure their pit stops aren't going to be very long at all, as long as they select the right settings. So Frillick now is come back out, but these guys will need to try and do their best to catch back up now. But what can these guys staying out do? Can they get to the end? We've got 12 and a half minutes to go now in this lap and time race. As we mentioned before, if you're just joining us, we obviously had a red flag situation, which is why it's a shortened race, but we're also time limited now, so it's just over 12 minutes to go now, so they will not get the full lap count in, which is going to be quite interesting to see how much fuel these guys take, if at all.
Yeah, it can't be very much with the how close it is right now. We're considering that there might be no stop attempts here today, or at least in this new format with the sprint that we're forced to have. And now big well, it's a lap car actually, looks like they're defending, but just trying to get out of the way of Polotczek and Stepalski really. And, is he going to get out of the way of Stopalski? Not quite. Braking just about enough to get out of the way of the third place driver there. And there's even more battling now going with Vac and Laurent. The Frenchman. Now we're going to see if he can get ninth. Probably will be able to do this with a much better line through the final corner. This is a battle for position, don't forget, as Carré also comes in, another pit stop being made. This is actually a closer drag race than I was expecting down into turn 1, but it looks like Vac is going to be able to get the move stick now. There's a big lock-up on the brakes on the right-hand side, and now Vac is through.
Yeah, he's obviously got a long way to catch up there if these guys at the front don't make a pit stop. And we've just gone under 11 minutes to go now, so 10:56 to go. Leader Ferris Stanley still out there doing a good job. He's got a nice gap now to Polacek in second place, and also Stopkowski there in third. So he's looking rather nice at the moment for a potential race victory, but hopefully he can sort out his fuel and doesn't lose out, because that Barbakov now coming in for his pit stop. I believe it looks like he's actually changing tyres there as well, which is quite interesting. Maybe obviously they don't really know how much fuel to take, but that is a long pit stop actually. So maybe he actually didn't take enough at the beginning, because my assumption was that most people would have taken a full tank of fuel, but maybe some people didn't, which means their pit stop is going to be even longer than others as well. So this strategy game is really what is going to be the outcome. And we don't know who is going to come out on top, but we've now just got 10 minutes remaining. 10 minutes remaining in this now sprint race.
Bit of a traffic jam down into turn 1 there, with Barbakov rejoining and Hamazera making a move on Laurent. And now down into turn 4, we're going to see, I'm really butchering that French name by the way, I'm sorry about that, but 7th position at the moment, looks like it's the battle. Adrian Hamazera obviously has been out there tearing around already, and Barbakov is really under pressure now into turn 7. Can't get close enough through the chicane and down here into the kind of right-angled left-hander at turn 7 now. So Barbakov stays in 7th, but you're just seeing right now how much fuel Barbakov didn't put in for some reason. He started the car way under-fueled in this race, because Freilich has come out 10 seconds in front, despite the fact they were battling really quite hard beforehand. He was about a second in front, but it really wasn't 10 seconds like that. So that is a surprise to see that Barbakov has misjudged that so badly. I don't see why anybody would not start the car or start the race with a full tank of fuel.
Yeah, I guess it's because also they didn't know, or they wouldn't have been able to guess quickly how many laps it would have been. So yeah, we'll have to work out which strategy is going to be the best. And currently, Vac gained quite a lot from that early pit stop he did. Also, Freilich made one a few laps ago as well. So these guys could be the ones to look out for if these top 4 make a pit stop, which we are assuming that they're going to.
Well, yeah, we are assuming they are going to at this point, but they might not. They might try it because there are under 10 minutes to go, and it is possible if you fuel save enough. Ferris Stanley is still leading though by nearly 5 seconds, and Sapolsky is in now. So I'd say the top 3 are the real main contenders for this race at the moment. But Stopalski now confirms himself to not be able to make it. He pits as now on board with Brantholm. Going to see if he can get a move down in 12 as they go through turn 11. It's very sketchy actually in this IndyCar. When you're not on the line, it's quite sketchy, that corner. But oh, big slide as well. Struggling to get through at the moment. He really is, but an independent driver. Going to see if he can get through now with a better exit through the final corner. Not really. He's going to have to get a big slipstream and a big dive into turn number 1. But it looks like the overspeed is going to be just too much at this point. Here he comes, and he's going to whistle past Laurent. And now into turn 1. Gets the move done into 9th place.
Yeah, nice. They're moving up as what you need to do. As you mentioned, obviously every position is going to get points. Obviously, as long as they're classified, which is finishing with 90% of the leaders' lap count. So pretty much everyone should be able to do that as long as they're not 2 laps down. As we're now seeing Polacek come in, and look at that, very short pit stop indeed. So he didn't take tyres, he just did those few litres of fuel that he will need. And it's actually been quite interesting with the obviously that wasn't planned, but it's literally like the exact lap count to need a bit of a splash and dash. So it's added a bit of intensity to these guys. So now, Ferris Stanley, what is he going to do? Is he going to have to make a splash and dash as well?
Where is Polotzik in comparison to Freelich? It looks like he is well in front, actually. Behind his teammate Vincent Gut there, but Freelich is just in behind, and not that far behind, actually. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this fuel marginal. I think we should put races or lap numbers right on the edge of what's possible in terms of fuel, and then make people decide whether they're going to save for one lap or just go all out, because it's very, very interesting to see the different ways of going about this. And even when you do pit, even if the splash is necessary, when do you pit? Like Thomas Vack, do you go really, really early? Or like Ferris Stanley going really quite late, and he just pits now. So we've only got Vincent Gut to pit, unless he is doing a big fuel saving job here. And given the fact he's losing a lot of time to those around him, he may well be trying to make this race on no stops completely.
So how many minutes do we have left? We've got 5 minutes and 32 seconds remaining. So yeah, they did need that splash. They would have needed about, probably 4, maybe 5 more laps of fuel. So yeah, it was a bit too much for these guys, as we did expect. Or at least that's assuming they're pitting now with no fuel, but I assume they're just pitting now to be safe. And Stanley has come out back in the lead, hasn't he? So Gut is looking good here. However, I believe he still is going to need to make a pit.
Yeah, we think so. We think that as well there's going to be 4 laps to go, including this one, so 3 at the line. So we're going to get a 18 lap race in the end, to add on to the 15 or so we managed in the first half, which is not too bad in the end, nearly at the 40. We have got a little bit of lap traffic coming up as well. Probably going to be Carey, actually. Or actually probably not him. Could be Longcart once again, but we'll find out in a minute. Shouldn't matter too much for Ferris Stanley though, because he has got a car buffer in between him and his nearest rival, Polotzik. And this will be interesting now if Vincent Gut actually does pit as he pulls to the left ever so slightly. Does he stay wide? He does indeed. So with 3 laps to go, Gut pits, so possibly 2 or 3 laps is the very maximum. It's very, very close though, it has to be said.
Yeah, Stanley's doing a good job though at the moment. He got that lead, and obviously no one was saving for a 1 stop, so for a 0 stop. So his pace at the beginning was what has got him into this position, and if he can hold now on for the next 3 minutes and 55 seconds, he will be able to get this lead. So we will not be getting to that lap 24 as you see on the top left of your screen. We will be time limited as expected. It will just be exactly what lap, we don't know. I believe we'll probably get either a 19 or 20 lap race. I think we're just going to get a 20 lap race actually. So obviously the drivers didn't really know what that was going to be when the session restarted. So good job for them, really, just coming out, doing it all giving it all that they can. But it looks like Ferris Stanley is in the best position at the moment.
Well, they're not out of the water yet in terms of fuel, because if they've underfueled it by a lap, then they might have to come in for a second stop, which would be a disaster. As we mentioned earlier, a very long pit lane here, and with how close it is right now, there are very small gaps in increments between each car right now, and pretty much inside the top 10 at least. So yeah, if you do have to make that 1 extra stop, even if it's for 1 lap of fuel because it's gone a lap longer than you were expecting in the end, then you really are going to be in a bit of trouble. But the closest battle at the moment looks to be for second. Freelich is very fast out there at the moment. We saw this in the first part of the race. He took the pole position, he led for a while, he pitted, and unfortunately the red flag came out just afterwards, which allowed everybody to change the tyres and reset themselves before the next part of the race. And Freelich had already done that in preparation that there were going to be the number of laps, or the next 25 laps were going to be clean and green, and unfortunately that's just the way. Equally, it could happen the same if a safety car came out for some random reason. So it's not all bad for Freelich. He still could salvage a second place, but Ferris Stanley definitely looks like he's going to take this win at this point without jinxing him too much. Oh, it's a nearly big spin for Freelich, and he has got around.
Oh, he's been collected.
Big hit there from Stopowski. Oh, and he stopped right in front of Polotzik, who has also lost his front wing, and now he's going to go into the pit lane. Stopowski, he was looking so good for him and now Polosek is also in. That is an absolute disaster for both of them.
And we've got 1 minute 40 left, so we're going to have 2 laps left, including this one. So really not much time for these guys to get that pit stop time back, and this is the worst moment for these guys to do this, as now Polosek, where is he going to spin? I assume he's going to be on the brakes. Yeah, just locked to the rears there, went around, and Stepkowski couldn't avoid him. To be fair, Tobias, he didn't move once he... yeah, he did move once he had spun. He did sit there, but obviously Stepkowski just couldn't avoid him, as we are now coming to 1 minute remaining in this race. And Ferris Stanley is leading the way by almost 5 seconds now to Friedrich, but Thomas Vack has got himself on the podium. Really good job from him. Obviously helped there by a couple of incidents, but he just did that pit stop early, got himself in that clean air, and made a couple of moves when he needed to. So that could gift himself a podium, because Barbakov is not too far behind him as Ferris Stanley comes around the corner. 40 seconds left. This will be the final lap of the race. So it is the white flag for these guys. 35 seconds to go. And he only has to do one more lap to get the first win of the season in the IndyAM Championship.
Bit of an altercation going down here into turn 1, by the way. Not entirely sure who that is off at turn 2. It could be Ian Lonko. He is already a lap down anyway. And it is a bit... Oh, another off there for one of the yellow cars coming back onto the circuit and probably scaring Ferris Stanley quite a lot there, actually. Yeah. Some...
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say it was Loriot and Hagendijk who are having some issues there, but we have now hit 0 on the time, which means it is going to be a 19 lap race. Obviously 20 including the formation lap as well. But Ferris Stanley, if he can get through this final chicane and not do what Polosek did a couple of laps ago, if he gets this braking nicely, that will be him pretty much confirmed as the winner of this opening race of the season for the race IndyAM Championship by FSR. And he comes around the penultimate corner here. Now the final corner. Ferris Stanley will take the first victory of the season and get himself to the top of that championship. Really good race from him. Obviously gifted a little bit, but also did the pace when he needed to. And we're going to see actually second place now is Thomas Vack. So Thomas Vack has got himself up into second place on the final lap. Friedrich has obviously had some issues somewhere. Friedrich drops down into third. Barbakov will get fourth place. Andrea Maharazoa will get into fifth. Brandholm will get sixth place. Vincent Goot now coming out of the final corner for Opportunity Racing will be getting that seventh place finish there as he comes across the line, closely followed by Perseus Miram around the final corner, and also Stepkowski there, who was so close to getting a really good result, but unfortunately Polosek crashed in front of him. He couldn't avoid. Kerry will come out of the corner as well to get 10th place, and then Chris Hagendijk has already finished. He's a lap down. Loriot will be a lap down as well. Polosek, I believe, will be classified one lap down as well. So that is the finishing order for this first race of the season, and that was certainly an interesting one, Ewan.
Yeah, it was indeed. Didn't see what happened to Freilich there on the final lap, but Thomas Vack able to get second position after finding himself down the order and way almost out of it a couple of times in that race, and he did in the first one. So a great drive from him to get second after all the trials and tribulations he had. Barbakov with a solid fourth, and Freilich is probably going to be a little bit disappointed with third, but the pace he showed will probably be very, very encouraging indeed going into the next round next week indeed. So let's have a look now what happened to oh no, we're not. We're having a look at the race results here. Ferris Stanley from Thomas Vack and Freilich come in there in third.
Yeah, nice podium there. Obviously, Freilich, we've been told, went off at turn 8, which is the fast chicane at the end of sector 2 after the back straight. So he obviously had a bit of an issue there. Thomas Vack then got second place. Good job for him. Barbakov down in fourth. You can see all the way down there. A few debutants. We've got Vincent Goot there and Kerry as well in the top 10. So good job for them. But that is not all of the action today. We have the Indy Pro Championship, so that is the best 30 drivers really in R Factor 2 are going out. That will be on the Races channel, so do go and check that out. In about 30 minutes time that will be going live. But for the AM Championship, next week, 27th of September, we're going to be going around the Portland International Raceway for another feature race. So we do hope that you join us for that one as well. But that will round it up here for the IndyAM Championship, brought to you by 3D Wrap, SimLab and IMB Raceway as well. So until the 27th of September from the AM Championship, we wish you a very warm goodbye.